In the early hours of a restless political morning, Donald Trump dropped a bombshell that reverberated across the United States, igniting passionate debates that have yet to die down. At exactly 4:03 a.m., the former president took to Truth Social, his preferred platform for uncensored rants and proclamations, to unveil a radical plan, one that would immediately dominate the national conversation. In what he called his national emergency plan, Trump made an unequivocal pledge to enact mass deportations of undocumented immigrants on his very first day back in office. The timing of this post, strategically or coincidentally in the dead of night, mirrored the chaos, unpredictability, and controversy that has come to define much of Trump's political career. This bombshell wasn't just an off-the-cuff statement. It was an announcement of a promise, one that sent shockwaves through both the political right and left, reverberating across media outlets and the streets of cities nationwide. The implications of this declaration went far beyond a typical campaign promise. This was a glimpse into the authoritarian tactics that many feared Trump would employ should he regain power. In this video, we will explore the content, context, and potential consequences of Trump's late-night revelation. From the legal battles to the human toll, we will dissect the possible fallout of his declaration. But perhaps most importantly, we will analyze whether this is a mere empty promise designed to fire up his base, or whether it represents a calculated and dangerous shift in U.S. immigration policy. With such a sweeping claim, this announcement promises to redefine the political discourse as we know it. At precisely 4:03 a.m., Trump's post on Truth Social read, "On day one, we will declare a national emergency to solve the border crisis. Millions of illegal aliens will be sent back. America first." The language was unmistakably Trumpian, bold, capitalized, inflammatory, and full of his signature nationalistic tone. His declaration immediately sparked both praise and condemnation. To his core base, this was the promise they had been waiting for, a firm, no-nonsense approach to what Trump has consistently called the border crisis, a term that has dominated his rhetoric since his first presidential campaign. For Trump supporters, this was seen as a definitive break from the so-called soft approach to immigration under both President Obama and President Biden, promising to reassert American sovereignty. On the other side, the left and moderates bristled at the rhetoric, seeing it as the worst form of xenophobia, an echo of the Trump administration's notorious family separation policies, which had already torn apart countless families during his first term. This new plan would be even more sweeping in scope, making promises that not only disregarded human rights, but also threatened to dismantle the very social fabric of the nation. Political analysts were quick to ask, what is Trump really promising, and what might this look like in practice? The timing of the post raised eyebrows. Why make such a high-stakes announcement in the middle of the night? The answer may lie in Trump's notorious tendency to dominate the news cycle with dramatic, attention-grabbing statements. By posting during hours when few people were awake, he ensured that his message would be one of the first things to hit the morning news, guaranteeing maximum exposure. The legal framework. Can Trump deliver? While the boldness of Trump's 4 a.m. proclamation cannot be understated, the question remains, can he actually deliver on his promises? The answer, according to legal experts, is a resounding not without significant challenges. Although Trump's rhetoric is typically aimed at riling up his base, the reality of implementing mass deportations on such a scale would face enormous legal hurdles. One of the primary legal obstacles is the U.S. Constitution itself. Deporting millions of undocumented immigrants, many of whom have lived in the U.S. for years, some even decades, would likely violate numerous constitutional protections, including the due process rights guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment. Legal scholars argue that Trump's proposed national emergency declaration to bypass these protections would face immediate court challenges. In fact, many predict that such a sweeping policy would never stand up to scrutiny in the courts. Additionally, there are questions about the scope and application of the national emergency power itself. While Trump has invoked national emergency powers before, particularly in relation to his border wall funding, mass deportations represent an entirely different legal and moral challenge. The logistical complexities of identifying, detaining, and deporting millions of people would require extensive cooperation from local and state law enforcement, overwhelming the already strained U.S. immigration system. Furthermore, Trump's plan would likely encounter resistance from within the U.S. government itself. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, would face significant logistical, ethical, and legal questions about how to carry out such a broad mandate. Would they be compelled to prioritize individuals based on criminality, or would entire families face deportation en masse, regardless of their status in the country? The human cost, real lives behind the numbers. While the political and legal ramifications of Trump's proposal are staggering, it is the human cost of such policies that stands to resonate the most deeply with the American people. Behind the rhetoric, there are millions of individuals, mothers, fathers, children, workers, and dreamers, whose lives would be upended by the mass deportations Trump envisions. Stories like those of Maria Hernandez, a mother of 3 who fled violence in Honduras and has been in the U.S. for almost a decade, are more than just anecdotes. They are the reality for millions who would be caught in the crossfire of Trump's proposed actions. Mass deportations would not only result in the separation of families, but would likely lead to increased fear and anxiety across immigrant communities. Children born in the United States, who are citizens by birthright, could find themselves torn from their parents, a tragedy that would have generational consequences. These children, who have grown up in the U.S. and know no other home, would face not only the trauma of deportation but the social isolation of being separated from their parents. Moreover, the impact on U.S. businesses and local economies cannot be understated. Immigrants make up a crucial part of the labor force in industries such as agriculture, construction, and hospitality. A sudden expulsion of such a large workforce would create a vacuum that would be difficult to fill, leading to disruptions in production and services. Many businesses, particularly small family-run enterprises, could face financial ruin if they lost their immigrant workers. On a broader level, this mass deportation agenda represents a dismantling of the American dream for millions of families who came to the United States seeking better opportunities. The promise of a better life, however elusive or difficult to achieve, would be shattered for those who have contributed to the nation's growth over the past several decades. For many, it would feel like a betrayal of everything they have worked for. Political fallout, rallying the base, alienating the nation. Trump's 4AM declaration is undoubtedly a strategic move designed to rally his most loyal supporters. Immigration, after all, has been one of the central pillars of Trump's political brand. His promises to build the wall and end chain migration were cornerstones of his 2016 campaign. But now, with the 2024 election just around the corner, Trump is seeking to reassert his position as the ultimate champion of America First immigration policies. By focusing on immigration once again, Trump is directly appealing to his base, particularly the working-class white voters who feel that the U.S. is being overrun by immigrants, both legal and illegal. These voters, many of whom feel disconnected from the elite political establishment, have long seen Trump as their champion, willing to take on the forces of globalization and immigration that they view as a threat to their way of life. However, this appeal to his base comes with risks. While it may energize his supporters, it is equally likely to alienate swing voters and moderates, who may view such extreme measures as a violation of American values. The threat of mass deportations could be seen as a direct attack on the very diversity that has historically made the U.S. a beacon of hope for the world's displaced. For many, Trump's proposal would only underscore the divisive, authoritarian nature of his political ideology. International repercussions, a global pariah. The international community is also unlikely to remain silent in the face of Trump's proposed actions. A mass deportation policy would undoubtedly strain relationships with key U.S. allies and neighbors, particularly Mexico and countries in Central America. The political and diplomatic fallout would be swift and severe, as these countries would be tasked with absorbing millions of deported individuals, many of whom would have no clear place to go. Human rights organizations, both domestic and international, would likely condemn Trump's policies, arguing that they violate basic human rights protections. Countries like Canada and European Union member states could also find themselves forced to reconsider their relationships with the U.S. if such a drastic policy were implemented. Trump's 4am declaration was more than just another headline-grabbing statement. It was a call to arms for his supporters and a devastating reminder of the deep divides that plague American society. If his promise to enact mass deportations were to come to fruition, it would signify a dramatic shift in U.S. immigration policy, one that could have far-reaching consequences for millions of individuals, entire communities, and the very fabric of American democracy. As the 2024 election looms, this issue will continue to dominate the political discourse. The question remains, will this plan ignite the flames of Trump's base, or will it drive away voters who are seeking a more inclusive, compassionate America? One thing is certain, the 4am bombshell has set the stage for what will likely be the most contentious election in modern U.S. history. The battle over immigration, race, and national identity is far from over, and Trump's latest promise is sure to be one of the key flashpoints of the coming political storm.